All right, the House of Representatives is taking up the president's roughly $2 trillion social spending package, the Build Government Bigger plan. In fact, just about 10 minutes ago, the long-awaited Congressional Budget Office released its score. And joining us now with the numbers is Congressman Kevin Brady. He's the ranking member on the House Ways and Means Committee. In fact, just left a meeting to join us on air. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we just got the Congressional Budget Office score just a few minutes ago.
Well, don't keep me in suspense. What's it look like?
Did anyone really think it would pay for itself? The short answer, of course not. It is at least $300 billion short, and that's even counting the budget gimmicks that's in here. So their best effort, of course, this is going to increase the national deficit quite a bit. But as you know, the true cost of this bill over a decade is closer to $4.5 trillion. And I think by many estimates, this will increase the national debt by almost 25% and drive down the economy as well. And that's giving them the benefit of the doubt of all the budget gimmicks. So yeah, the president's claim that this costs zero is simply wrong.
Well, they've been preparing for this, basically being dismissive of the CBO's numbers and their ability to score, saying they're not able to factor in what we're going to bring in by tracking down the tax cheats, which is very convenient. But let me ask you another question on this. Given these numbers, given the size of this, given the concerns about inflation, how's this going to help us when it comes to inflation?
It won't. In fact, it'll make it worse. A couple reasons. We already know from even the White House's favorite economic forecaster that when you put the infrastructure bill, the $2 trillion of spending for COVID earlier this year, and then this bill together, that over the next decade, we'll see on average about 2% higher consumer prices for Americans. So you ought to brace for inflation for quite a while. And it's pretty simple. When you're sending out trillions of dollars in the economy, but actually paying workers not to reconnect to their job. In this case, independent estimates show about 2 million more workers will exit the workforce because of this spending in here. You've got a recipe for not just high inflation, but very persistent inflation. And that is what I think has got most families, a lot of our small businesses, very, very worried.
Well, let's take one specific example of how this works, because this is basic. I'm not an economist. I took economics in college, and so it's pretty basic stuff. Supply and demand. You put more money in, you have less product. You're going to drive up the prices. But let me ask you this question. You've been around a while. How many services or products or things of that nature has the government subsidized and the price come down on?
Oh, gosh. The government subsidizes an awful lot. And we saw this during COVID where all this spending, and a lot of it at the beginning especially was done fairly blindly. It was pushing money out the door because we didn't know, how much we had to rescue this economy and get a handle on the healthcare. But as that cleared up, Washington just kept spending money and sending it down. That's why we saw, an average family of four where both parents lost their jobs. We sent them government checks of over $109,000, and even families without either worker being damaged at all, we were sending them $26,000. But we were doing the same for businesses, governments, others, again, all driving up inflation in a major way. And don't take my word for it, the Federal Reserve of San Francisco, not exactly a conservative organization, identifies that type of spending as the reason we've got much higher inflation. In fact, for this year, Tony, since President Biden raised his hand, took the oath, inflation's on a 40-year high and doesn't seem to be abating at all.
Well, you're not going to see it abate if you are continuing to put trillions of dollars into the economy. Before we run out of time, I want to switch to this toddler tax that's a part of this bill. I think this is an example where the government gets involved. It drives up the cost of services like this.
Yeah, The way it works is that in this bill, they drive wages up. They subsidize wages for childcare workers, and with regulations, drive up the cost. But they only subsidize a few families. So if you're a family of 2 teachers making $65,000 a year, by liberal estimates, they believe your childcare costs will go up by $13,000 a year. So add $1,000 a month to the cost of childcare. But here's what's worse for pro-life, pro-family conservatives and religious freedom. They are banning faith-based childcare facilities from participating here. They go out of their way to make sure that a single mom who's got childcare at the local church a block away will have to drive miles and miles away from work and away from home to get this government-directed healthcare. It is a direct challenge on religious freedom. And this is, for forever, Tony, frankly, the government by law has said, look, childcare facilities run by faith-based organizations benefit the parent, not the provider. And they've always been allowed. About half of the childcare in America is provided this way. So this is a direct attack on faith-based childcare organizations.
And Congressman Brady, we're almost out of time here, but the effect of giving the money, but only to be used for non-faith-based, the ultimate outcome is it crowds out the faith-based entities because they won't have any, parents to serve because most of them are going to be attracted to where the government money is.
Yeah, that is exactly right. It strangles the faith-based childcare, which for many of us has been such an important part of childcare. My wife, thankfully, was able to stay home, as we raised our children. But our neighbors and friends who use a lot of our local care, they're going to be squeezed in big ways, and ultimately, it's going to make it harder for our faith-based groups to survive.
Congressman Kevin Brady, always great to talk with you, and we'll be following these developments very closely and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you. Take care, Tony.